would accept because it was bipartisan, and we worked hard to keep it that way. We wrote to the president to make sure that he was aware of that. The Republicans know full well that we're ready to do that. The fear that I see in their eyes is of their own caucus who do not want to invest in the domestic agenda. And why? Because they fear it will increase the deficit, which they already borrowed from our children's future. $1.5 trillion will be over $2 trillion with interest in order to give tax breaks to the top 1% in our country and corporate America. That's what their priority is. That's why they're weak on this in terms of how we write a budget. So you have to direct that question to the Republicans.
You know, I just want to say, because that's the heart of the question, Paul Ryan has a very simple decision. Country first, party first. The demands we want are not demands. They're common commitments to the folks who need their pensions, to the first responders with opioids, to the community health centers and the children's health insurance programs, and so on. And Paul Ryan's made a decision to go with the Tea Party, to go with the Freedom Caucus, and to give the back of his hand to folks who are willing to work with him. He's got to cut them loose and set the country free.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I tried cold turkey.
Peter Hoyer. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you the answer. I'm dyslexic. And when I was a child, I had trouble writing, so my cousin got me a type.
Senate Democrats refuse to fund the government unless we agree to their demands on something entirely unrelated. They want a deal on immigration, and then they'll think about reopening the government. It is a shakedown strategy that Senate Democrats have been talked into by their base. Now, I could go on and on about how cynical I think this ploy is, and I certainly do. But let me read you something Senator Schumer himself said in 2013, the last time we found ourselves in this position with a government shutdown. And here is what in 2013, during a government shutdown, Senator Schumer said, quote, "No matter how strongly one feels about an issue, you shouldn't hold millions of people hostage. That's what the other side is doing. That's what's wrong, and we cannot give in to that." Close quote. Let me repeat that first line. Quote, "No matter how strongly one feels about an issue, you shouldn't hold millions of people hostage." Close quote. He was right. You shouldn't. But that is exactly what he and his party are doing right now. Here's something else that Senator Schumer said in 2013. Quote, "I believe in immigration reform. What if I persuaded my caucus to say, I'm going to shut down the government, I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way. It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation, of paralysis." Close quote. Politics of idiocy. His words, not mine. Here's one more quote from Senator Schumer in 2013 during that government shutdown. Quote, "We believe strongly in immigration reform. We could say we're shutting down the government until you pass immigration reform. It would be governmental chaos." Close quote. Sadly, he had that right as well. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, furlough notices are going out to federal workers across the country. Half of the Defense Department's civilian workforce has been furloughed. Training for reserves has got to stop. Guardsmen have to be sent home. A number of states are going to run out of money for children's health insurance. And all of this is completely unnecessary. But Senate Democrats believe none of it is too high a price to pay for appeasing their political base. There is no reason for this shutdown. We have been, and we continue to be, willing to work together in good faith on immigration. But that deadline is weeks away. There is no good reason for Senate Democrats to keep willfully forcing a shutdown on this country. Now, I want to take a moment and I want to address the men and women who work here in the Capitol and who work around the country in this government, whether you're in the military or in the reserves or you're in law enforcement or medical researchers or people working at our national parks, whichever you do, wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing for the taxpayers. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifices that you and your families make. We could not be more grateful. You should not have to go through this uncertainty. You deserve so much better than this needless shutdown. And we hope that it will end very soon. My colleagues, Senate Democrats shut down this government, and now Senate Democrats need to open this government back up. Stop holding our troops and children's health insurance hostage. End this reckless shutdown that is inflicting needless uncertainty on our country. Let common sense and cooler heads prevail. Come to your senses. Do the right thing. Open this government back up. I yield.
Gentleman from Wisconsin yields back. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Pursuant to Clause 7 of Rule 20, I move a call of the House.
Okay, so we just listened in there to Speaker Paul Ryan making his case about what needs to happen regarding the shutdown, clearly putting the blame squarely on the Democrats' shoulders, putting the ball in their court in that regard. Let's go to CNN's Manu Raju on the Hill, where the Senate has also just gavelled back in. Abby Phillip is at the White House, where the government shutdown has also put a damper on the president's inaugural anniversary. Manu, to you first. This push now is to keep this shutdown from dragging on. What are we going to see on the Senate floor?
Well, we're going to see an effort by the Republicans to keep the government open for 3 more weeks till February 8th. But that is a time frame that Democrats say is too long. They will not accept a February 8th time frame. They want about a week or so in order to force the Republican hands to cut a deal on immigration. What a Senate Democratic source told me this morning is that they need to see a, quote, pathway to passage on immigration in order to get something through, in order to agree to reopen the government. That's something that Republicans are saying they're not going to agree to. They're saying no immigration talks until the government is reopened. That is their dividing line. Now, before the Republican conference meeting this morning, I had a chance to catch up with a number of members who recognize that this is going to be very politically risky, not just for Democrats, but for themselves as well. Do you think the president is showing enough flexibility here in his negotiations with the Democrats?
I don't know where the president stands on all this right now. I just don't know.
Would it be helpful for him to lay out where he stands?
Of course. And that's always been an issue, whether it was on health care and now on this issue. He needs to be clear about what his